For this, I only have a couple of follow-ups to what you wrote. I appreciate that you took the time to pen a couple of thoughts down based on those questions.
Sure. Glad to do it.
It seems like you guys went through, was it a pretty intense strategic planning process a few years ago where all this kind of came out of?
Yeah, it was. So we had a client that looked at their supplier base, the critical suppliers, and a very large corporation, and said, holy cow, we're highly dependent on these companies, and we, the client, have rather violent cyclical shifts of our business up and down. What happens is some of these smaller suppliers, us, $100 million, and let's say, I think their threshold was $200 million and less in sales. What happens to those companies in our business cycles, and how would that affect us? And so they decided that they wanted to help these suppliers plan for cyclical shifts so that they'd be more reliable to the company. And so they approached 4 companies and said, would you like to be our first test case? And we were one of the 4. 3 of the 4 accepted. So we went through a class with them that took 4 weeks. So it was scattered over a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great experience. So they took us through their strategic planning process. So the not the detail, but the formulas, the structure of it. And we used that as our plan to create our own strategic plan. And they had the instructors in the class were employees of their company who coach their own senior management on how to go through this. So it was a great experience. So we've done it. First we did it as a company, and then we're now in the process of doing it again as our various divisions, like the one in Twinsburg is a division that's an advertising agency. Well, their strategic plan is different than the strategic plan we use in other parts of the company.
That makes sense.
So, yeah. So we did it top down, and now we're doing it bottom up.
Gotcha. One of the things you mentioned in your response back was this idea that not only should you be determining what the best suppliers are based on their stuff, but they had to do some convincing too about why they were strategic to you guys and to your continued growth. Can you talk about that concept, the idea that it has to truly be mutually beneficial here?
You said a few different things. So I did not intend for it to sound like they had to do some convincing to us.
Okay.
It was more of just me sitting down and saying, do we matter to these people? And if we don't matter to them, we don't do enough business, or they're so big that we're inconsequential. It's like, well, then I'm not going to expect them to want to have this particular relationship, this rather extraordinary relationship, because we're just not important to them. So it certainly does need to be equally beneficial. And so as we thought about who would we want to have as a strategic partner, one of my own thoughts was, well, do we matter to them?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is yes, great, let's keep going. If the answer is no, like, well, okay, what are we going to do about that? Maybe we should just, walk away and don't worry about it, and they're just a supplier. But maybe we should, approach them differently and approach our thoughts about them differently if we want to be a strategic partner to them. And so that was just a preliminary step inside my own head of trying to make sure we're picking the right kind of companies to do this with. The starting point, of course, is the companies, we're already doing a lot of business with them, and my hope was that they recognized that we were important to them. And it's so easy as companies to just do business and not step back and think about it.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's what that's what I wanted the management of the supplier and our people to stop and think about it. Like, okay, we're doing a lot of business. We could do more, or we could do less.
It does seem like the idea of partnerships kind of lives in the background or the back of people's brains as they just, run their normal course of the day. But to have it be strategic might be something different. I'm wondering if do you have like a mutual communication structure with some of these companies where say you'll get on a conference call every once in a while or meet face to face every quarter, anything like that?
We do have we don't have it scheduled, so like every quarter. No, not that. However, we do make sure we touch base with these people, senior management. And so in my company, that would be myself and probably one of the partners one or more of the partners who's most directly involved with that supplier. And so, there is communications going back and forth, and some of it's, very tactical. I need this, we want that. Some of it's more strategic of, well, how are we doing? The really home run comes when we start sharing information with each other. So we can look at a market and say, if you guys have the ability to do X, Y, and Z, we could sell a lot more stuff. And they say, well, we could do that. We'd have to buy some equipment. We'd have to, change some things, but we could do that. They're like, okay. So now we're both aiming at the same target, which is, the ultimate customer.
Without naming names, Jim, I'm wondering, could you share a for instance when that happened, even if it's, kind of general, where you asked maybe a supplier if they could tweak something with you or to go after business together? Is there a for instance that's kind of easily accessible in your head?
Sure. So I can name a couple of them pretty quick. One of them was that we needed special barcoding capabilities for a particular client and extraordinary quality standards for them. And the supplier who we wanted to do business with didn't have that equipment. So, we explained to them, we'd like to do all this business with you, but you need this certain kind of equipment. They're like, oh, okay, well, we could get that equipment. Mm-hmm. And then we start talking through, well, how likely is it that we're going to get the business and send it to them? And, we had to make some promises to them. They were not contractual, they were handshakes, and saying, okay, if you get this equipment, we're going to go out and sell towards it, and we're going to get the clients, focused on shifting to us, and we're going to move the business to you. And it's worked out. So we've gotten quite a bit of new business that fits that equipment. So our supplier's happy, we're happy, customer's happy. So that would be one. Another example, in the label business, many of our label suppliers are reluctant to talk about exactly what is the raw material that's used in a particular label. And our customer requirement is that they have to know, and we have to have, what is the base stock, what is the adhesive, what is the liner, what kind of silicone is on it. Mm-hmm. And so the supplier, says, well, we don't divulge that. I'm like, well, they have to have it.
Yeah.
So, they say, and you get somebody low level, they say, well, that's not our policy. It's like, okay, well, I want to talk to the person who makes the policy. And when you get them in the room, they're like, yeah, we can tell you. We understand why you want it. And again, there's this trust that has to be in place for both sides to say, we're going to share information with each other that we generally don't disclose because we're both after the same thing, selling more stuff to the client.
Right. That's perfect.